Good afternoon, everybody. This is GM Rick, and this is another round of GM tips. And in this round, I'm going to be really Pathfinder focused. I'm going to pick some adventure paths each week and go over them with you guys as GMs with the important things that you need to know and what's really key and why do you pick this path over other paths. Many GMs in the background. You'll hear her playing with her train, so hopefully that won't distract anybody from the podcast. All right, so this week I'm going to take a look at a classic done by Paizo and James Jacobs, Wes Snyder, and the bunch. Hold on to your hats. We're going to go through the Carrion Crown. Carrion Crown is a neat adventure path. It is an adventure path set in the horror world. So for those of you that like adventures like Castle Strahd and some of the other horror ones in the older D&D modules, this is your chance to get in on the ground floor of a great adventure path and running one that is based in the horror world. There are normally in an adventure path 6 books. They split it up with 6 books. And each book allows the characters to go up so many levels. So take a read when you get a chance into the intro. Take a look at each one and see where you're going to advance the characters in each one. Now, this is based on 4, the rule of 4 players. 4 to 5 to be succinct. You can get away with 5 in most of them. Beyond that, you're going to have to make adjustments either direction to not kill the players or to give them a good challenge. So just keep that in mind. The premise of this whole adventure is your characters are going to the country of Ustalav in Golarion. Ustalav is a country that is set in horror. It is a Varishian offshoot. So Varissia, if you're aware of the continent, is off to the west. And what happened is the Varishian tribes were tribes that would migrate a lot like the Shomti and the Halets. But they're a little different in the fact that they have a really culturally eclectic, and a lot of artistry and love of harrowing, which is basically the tarot cards, and in fortune telling. So think of your Eastern European gypsies. That, I think, covers in my mind what a Varishian group like Ustalav is. And this would be their version of Hungary, Romania, and maybe the Slovak nations, as well as a bit of Croatia, all moved into one. And so you're going to be starting out in Ustalav. You don't have to be from there, and you can tell your players that. They can be pretty much from anywhere. And how they get around this is, in the first book, is they work with, in the first book, by the way, to give you an intro, is The Haunting of Harrowstone. Harrowstone is a prison that is in the east or the western part of Ustalav called Canterwall. And in Canterwall, there's a big town by the name of a small town by the name of Ravengrow. And Ravengrow is where this all will be taking place in. And what they're going to do is they're going to give you, a lot of times in the back of these, the town information. What I suggest doing as a GM, don't just take what they give you all the time. Make some additions and modifications to really make it yours. How they draw the characters into the story is a real straightforward storyline. There's a professor by the name of Petros Lorimar. He used to be a professor of the University of Lepidstadt, which is north of Canterwall. And the way Ustalav's set up, Ustalav has provinces or duches that it basically has around the area itself. Some of these are very non-royal, non-ruler focused, like Lepidstadt area and the area in Canterwall. And so you want to get a couple books for this, okay, to prepare for it. You want to get the adventure path, but you also want to get the Rule of Fear. The Rule of Fear is a guide to Ustalav. And it's a really good deep dive that goes into each of the countries, provinces, the history, how Ustalav came about, and how it has gone through so much at the hands of a horrific lich lord by the name of the Whispering Tyrant, or Tar-Baphon. Tar-Baphon went into the neighboring orc country of Belkzen, took over a couple of the tribes, and converted them to his cause, which was called the Whispering Way. And he basically used that plus an undead army as a living being to invade Ustalav. Ustalav staved that off, but not before he had taken over the country for 800 years. And so he came in, killed one of the first major kings and princes, and wiped out the brothers of that line. And I believe one of those, it's hinted at, was turned into one of his liches. And so he invaded with a horrific army. And he was stopped by the Shining Crusade. And it was a Tal'Doran crusade that came up along with the Chelish and a few others to stop the Whispering Tyrant from taking over the whole country. I'm not going to go into every detail of it, but just know there's a rich story here behind all of this. So in the first adventure path, and this is the thing you want to get to know and read all these, and my recommendation with all this, take the time before you run an adventure path to read all 6 books, even if you skim them. Get the basic gist of the story, because there is a flow and an ebb to the story, and especially if you're going to want to expand it into a campaign to where your players have a lot of options, you want to really get to know the paths. I learned this in the Skulls and Shackles path, which is the pirate path, and I learned some hard lessons there about running things and reading ahead of time, and it is truly important as a GM to do that. So I would suggest the ones you're going to read through is The Haunting of Harrowstone, The Trial of the Beast. I'm sorry I don't have a hard copy of The Haunting of Harrowstone, but when I got into it, there isn't much left. So, spoiler alert also to you as a GM, you're going to have a hard time finding The Haunting of Harrowstone, so make sure you get the PDF version of it. I would get the PDFs for all these. That's what I did. The next one, Broken Moon. As you can see, what's that on the cover? It is a werewolf. Wake of the Watcher. As you can see, a scum on there. Nasty, nasty, nasty. Ashes at Dawn. And there's the vampire. And then finally, dun dun dun, there's Tar-Baphon and Shadows of the Gallows Spider. So these are some really great modules, paths, as they call them. I call them just extra big modules. So basically, you're going to start out with your players, and they're going to have some sort of tie-in to Professor Petros Lorimar. And Dr. Lorimar somehow has come in contact with them, and this is where you can take it a lot of different directions. His area of research is the Whispering Way, Undeath in Urgathoa, evil gods like Zon, Kuthan, Urgathoa, Norgorber, and some others, and into wizardry or mysticism. So it's really important to do a backstory with your players. Really tie them into Petros Lorimar, because that's going to affect a lot of how this campaign will go. And it is a roller coaster ride. Basically, what you will find out, or what the players will find out as time goes on when they go to the funeral of Petros Lorimar in Ravengrove, is they are going to come across some nastiness that's going on from the prison. Harrowstone was a prison that kept the most notorious prisoners of the region. And basically, they were the worst of the worst. And they the different provinces and our surrounding countries like Brevoy paid the country, the prince, to use the prison of Harrowstone to house these nasty, nasty killers. And some of the ones that were there at the time of the demise of the prison were Father Charlatan, the Lopper, Vance Saytressel, the Mosswater Marauder, a dwarf by the name of Ispin Onyx Cudgel, the Piper of Illmarsh, which nobody knows his name, but he was like the Pied Piper, and did some nasty things to paralyze people using his playing skills. And the Splatterman, a Heen Ferryman, which was a scholar of anthroponymistics, the study of personal names and their origins. These prisoners were housed along with other prisoners. And what you find is that the warden was really a good man, as was his wife. And he really did try to clean up the country and make it a better place. However, there was an uprising that came from the prisoners within. And they tried to quell the uprising, but unfortunately, when the uprising happens in that prison, because the prison's on top, the actual cells are down inside the earth. They cut off the exit routes, trapping some of the guards and the warden at the bottom of the cells with the worst of the worst. Well, these people were trying to escape, and the guards knew this. And the guards lamented the fact that they were going to have to do what they had to do, but they knew the heart of the warden. And basically that meant keep the prisoners in at all costs. So they dumped basically flammable materials down in there and lit it and burned everyone, as well as those who didn't die of burning died of asphyxiation. So now you have the souls of the restless prisoner dead. The warden, however, even in the afterlife, stayed, good soul he was, to keep those prisoners in check and never let them leave, along with some of the guards, the souls of the guards. However, unfortunately, the Whispering Way, a very secretive group, and you're going to get to know the Whispering Way a lot. They have an influence throughout Golarion, and they are the cult of undeath. Their goal in life and in death is to bring about an undead world of order. So they want to turn Golarion into their undead paradise. And that's the real threat at the back of this. So keep that in mind as a GM when you're running this. These are the baddie undead cult who have ties everywhere, including into the nation of Geb, that's an undead nation, and into various other nations. They have followers in Kaer Maga inside Varissia. And the reason I know this is I did some of the research. So I want to give this to you as a GM before you run this, so you know these little tidbits. That's why it's important to do this research. So the Whispering Way, their key deal is they do not believe in telling the secrets of undeath to anyone. And they will go to the grave to make sure no one knows their secrets, other than those that are part of the cult. How do they do this? Well, Professor Lorimar, in his infinite wisdom, was trying to find out why the Whispering Way was trying to bring back the old creator of the Whispering Way, and that's Tar-Baphon. So he follows them back to Ravengrove from the University of Lepidstadt. And he followed them to Harrowstone Prison, where he found his demise. And his demise was a unique one. And you're going to ask, why did it happen the way it did? They killed him the way they did to make sure that a Speak with Dead would never reveal their secrets. See, a Speak with Dead, if you really run it right as a GM, you have to have a dead corpse with a mouth. And if that's crushed, there's no way. Or if it's burned off, there's no way that you can get the dead to tell you their secrets. And that's the way of the Whispering Way. You might learn the secrets, but if you don't get turned into an undead or you reach an untimely death, they have poisons and other things that dissolve, and acids that dissolve the jaw, so that you will never tell their secrets. And that's the twisty, fun part of this whole thing, is the players are going to try to find out more about the Whispering Way, but there's very little to be known. Now, do note that the professor's private collection has information. But first, the information, they will have to bury the professor and then watch the events unfold in Ravengrove that takes them up to the prison. And the prison is mostly haunts. So there's a section on haunts. Make sure you get familiar with that. Haunts, a character can't necessarily physically harm a haunt. They just have to live through it. And all they can do is try to find a solution to how to put the haunt to a halt. Otherwise, it continues to come back and back and back. That's the fun of this, because now your mighty meat shields are going to run up against a brick wall because they can't attack a haunt. You can't do it. Not effectively without having something that would harm the haunt. And so now you set them off to find the right thing. So this is really becoming a skill base. My recommendation as a GM, since this has come out, push people to play an investigator class. The investigator class was ideal, and I ran an NPC with my party who was a Varishian Kermagan investigator that helped them out. Because without that, they would have found a lot of dead ends. And that's something as a GM you got to watch in the formation of the party. Really, this is a horror campaign, so you need a meat shield. You need a cleric, of course, of some sort, or an inquisitor. You need some sort of rogue to deal with traps. And you'll need some other sort of spellcaster for your starting core 4. The fifth one that I would recommend is an investigator class, just for this reason. We also had some interesting cavaliers and other characters that ran with it. But if you go, see where I'm going with this, it's a fun campaign. Make sure you look through the characters here, and you might want to tweak the classes from what the original ones had at the time. That's the great part, is you got a lot more classes to play with. So this is where your Hero Lab software comes in, that you can import these guys in there and put their stats in and then change them and tweak them to be a little more appropriate for some of the newer classes out. Once you guys are able to get past and put to rest Harrowstone and its haunting, then you move on to the next one, which is your Frankenstein's monster, and that's the Trial of the Beast. And in this one, it's really fun because your characters are going to become investigators. Hint, hint. They're going to go out and try to find out why this poor beast is on trial. And the path leads them of the Whispering Way from Ravengrove to Lepidstadt. Lepidstadt is north, and it's what's called, this area on the west is called the Palatinates. And the reason is the Palatinates believe in a republic-style government, where people of rich and low upbringing can both serve on the Palatinates. You're also going to get introduced to a very fun group that's going to be a help to the party throughout the rest of the adventure. And this is where this really comes in. And Professor Lorimer starts it. But it's a cult of Pharasma based people called the Esoteric Order of the Palatini. And what this is, think of your old-style mummy movies where you have these people of upper crust that are intrigued with all kinds of things, whether it's philosophy, religion, spiritualism. And they're a spiritualist group based on a very ancient belief from an angel, that the fallen angel Tabris, that there is more to life and life's mysteries than meets the eye, and that the Palatinates are seekers of knowledge and wisdom for mainly good reasons. Esoteric, that's why the esoteric, they're mostly good. They're mostly law and neutrality, balance. But there are evil portions of this, and you can always work up some evil portions of the esoteric order. But the reason I bring this up is because Judge Daramid, Embrith Daramid, who will be conducting the trial, calls the party in the midst of all this stuff going on in Lepidstadt and asks the party's help. And you're going to be returning a book, a key book that was part of Dr. Lorimer's collection, and escorting his daughter to this city. And so, in doing so, they're going to find out more about the esoteric order. And this person that they give the book to at the University of Lepidstadt is going to point out the beast in the trial in Judge Daramid. And Judge Daramid, as being a key member in this section of the esoteric order, feels like the trial is going to be a sham, and that the poor beast is possibly innocent. But the party has to find evidence to that effect. And so the party goes on to 5 different side quests of finding information. And really role-play this up. My players took it off the beaten path. They took some of the towns that are in between. And you'll see there's a boatload of them. And I'll show you the map here. It's really neat. But the Lepidstadt environments, this is all surrounding the Lepidstadt area. And there's various little cities and places to go and towns. And in one of these towns, the players befriend a priest of Pharasma. Now, he was kind of a side character, nothing there. But the party really utilized him as a character witness at the trial. So don't skimp on the role play. Make sure your players constantly are finding, and this goes back to the things we talked about in the beginning, goal, obstacles, character, attempts. You want your goals and obstacles in here to let your characters really attempt to find out how to get the information to do a proper trial for the beast. Because if they don't get enough information, the beast is going to get burned at the stake. And you don't want that. So, the first part is save the beast. And this is where you let the players gather the information, the character witnesses, and you really play up the trial. Take the trial and make it a whole session to 2 sessions. And really play it up and let the party become an attorney of law or a barrister. Because the barrister that was awarded to the defense of the beast of Lepidstadt is a drunk. And he is okay, but he doesn't know how to save the beast. And so the beast is going to get railroaded. So the party has to come in and do that. So for your spellcasters, your rogues, this is the place for them to BS it up big time. And award experience, not just according to the book, but for specific fun things they do outside of it to prove the innocence of the beast. After they prove the innocence of the beast, they then must go find the beast's father, because the beast runs off. And he runs off to a very fun castle called Schloss Koramak. And Schloss is German for castle. And so you have Schloss Koramak that's on a giant waterfall. And the Whispering Way has taken the person who's the beast's creator, the Baron Koramak, who no longer rules the country, but is still an influence in the country, which is where Lepidstadt is. And it's this part of the world that you guys will have a lot of fun, because Lepidstadt is based in a neat Palatinate country. So you're going to be going into that. And again, there's Lepidstadt. And you're going to take them to Schloss Koramak, where you're trying to save the beast, number one, from getting burned by the people who are still upset that he got off. They felt like they got a raw deal by him being let off, if that happens. And you have to find out what the Whispering Way is doing with Schloss Koramak, because it's doing something very nefarious. You're going to find out that they're basically getting pieces to make another Whispering Tyrant. So they're trying to find things for their mad scheme to raise the Whispering Tyrant. Which takes you to the third book, The Broken Moon. And in this, you're going to go into one of the more wild provinces of the Palatinates. And this is a place called Escanner Lodge. And Escanner Lodge is in the northern heart of Ustalav. And you're going to run into the different werewolf groups that are in Lozerai and Ardia. And you're going to find that there are more than one group of werewolves, and each of them have their own agenda, but they're ruled by a central king of the pack. And something has happened. Something has riled them up. The Whispering Way has done something they shouldn't. And so you're going to get to run werewolves. You're going to get to run hunters. You're going to have a mastermind villain who is trying to get rid of the party in an easy way. You're going to have a haunted spirit of the very first werewolf ever in Lozerai. So, fun, fun, fun. And this, I can tell you, was a blast. And you got a ton of NPCs. And be willing to add more to the Lozerai Lodge and to change the story a little bit so that the characters that they read it can't figure out what's going on. And the party has both allies and detractors in this group. There will be the confrontation with the various werewolves. And how do you handle that? And how do you set things right? And what has happened to the king of the pack? That all comes together in the story. And it's a lot of fun, believe me. You're going to have your first Harrower deck experience where you do a Harrow fortune telling for the party and give them bonuses from it. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And then you're going to find a place that has been lost for hundreds of years. That is a sacred place for Desna that has been corrupted. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then you're going to chase this group all the way to a confrontation between one of the werewolf packs and the undead in a town called Felgrow. It's a town that was invaded by in our deal by the lawful evil noble that's next door. He got greedy and wanted all the nice farmland, and he burned it and salted the earth. So there's restless spirits. And the necromancer, Mr. Vrood, will be the one that brings them back to life for a horrific ritual that will lead to be a key part of bringing back the Whispering Tyrant. Got your appetite wet yet? I hope so, because it's getting exciting. Then we go into the Lovecraftian realms in Wake of the Watcher. And basically, if you remember some of those Lovecraft movies, especially where the people were half human, half demon fish, this is where you get to realize that. You're going to Thrushmoor, and Thrushmoor is in the it's one of the provinces, big cities in the provinces of Ilmarsh area. And so you're going to basically the area of the world where lots of nefarious stuff goes on. And this count that runs the region is very occultic and very... everything just has that feeling of old world corruption, like the old ones. And you run into more of the Whispering Way, and you go to Ilmarsh to find out what are they trying to find out in the coast of Ilmarsh. And what has happened to Ilmarsh? Why has it become a foul place of foul-smelling things? You'll meet the mayor, Early Creedle, who's basically trying to have the party help him with some tasks, but is mysterious. He doesn't want to tell them the real backstory. There is a horrific past that goes on with Ilmarsh. And guess what? Dagon. Yes, for those Dagonite lovers, Dagon makes his appearance. Sound like a movie we saw maybe of Lovecraftian origin? And so they get to do battle with them. And then they go to the first founders of Ilmarsh and the whole country area there. That is House Undiamede and Captain Undiamede. And that's when the real insanity begins, because the Cthulhu creatures come. Oh yes, they come. And then it gets even better, because you don't just stay on the land. No, you must go do the rescue of the poor innocents down in the sea. Down in the sea. And you get to go to the scum tunnels. And that's going to be a lot of fun, because now you're going to have strange aliens along with the scum. And you find out some of the more nefarious things. And will they bring back the goat that walks in the woods, Shub-Niggurath? Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And the dark gods of the tapestry. And they have a whole section on the dark gods of the tapestry. So, are you excited yet? No, not yet? All right. From there, you are led to Caliphus, the capital of the Carrion Crown area of Ustalav, and Ashes at Dawn. And in this adventure, you get to know a little more about the capital and what's going on. You even get a little bit of touches with the nobility there. some of the great nobility that you may have read about in some of the books in the Pathfinder tales. You have a run-in. Yes, yes, yes. And guess what you're going to have the run-in with? Dullahans, the Headless Horseman. So if you like the Headless Horseman and the Dullahan things where their head is hanging on their side, yes, you get to run them. And you also get to meet key people in the esoteric order that may be able to help you, along with their warehouse where they keep all their knowledge. And you get to deal with the arrogant Adjurius Mod. Yes, am I getting you guys in yet? You get to run into a damn fear, and the damn fear asks your help because something is going on among the vampires. The key old vampires, the nobles, are being killed off, and their spawn is being sucked into a drug that frees them from their masters. So now there's an inner storm battle going with the establishment of the vampire world in Caliphas. And you will meet, yes, the Count Dracula of the realm. This is a vampire that's been around and was a general in the Whispering Tyrant's army. Who is he, you ask? Luvic Sirvaj. And you get to make a party, find out how are they going to work with the vampires to save the vampires and the city and stop the Whispering Way. Ooh, now which evil is worse? See, I love that. And I know you're getting excited because I was excited running it. And you get to find your first relical item from the last adventure and use it here. It is a very minor relic in the clerical priesthood of Pharasma, which, by the way, Ustalav is Pharasmatic. Desna, Pharasma, and a few others. And let me tell you, Pharasma runs king. So then from there, you get to find out the Sisters Dublice and witches. Yes, hasn't it got excited enough yet? No, we have witches. And not just witches, you ask. We have plotting, scheming witches that take a paladin of Iamade and turn him into a vampire. Will you save him, or will he kill the party? Let's find out. And yes, the sister Asia Dublice. She is both witch and vampire. And what are they making for the Whispering Way that will bring back the tyrant? See, now you're really pumped. My players were very pumped because they were ready to get to the last. And this is so much fun, guys. A path should do that for you as a GM. You should be passionate for it. But wait, we aren't done in this long dive. Now we come to the final chapter. And it is the Shadow of the Gallospire. Where are you going to go to? The province of Virlich. And it used to be 2 provinces at one time. Virholt and, let's see, what was the other one? I'm sorry, I should have it off the top of my head. Virholt and something Lich. Oh well. I know, I should remember these things, right? It's been a while since I've run it, so hold with me on that one. Virlich is a storm of necromantic energy. Nothing works right. Teleports don't get you in correctly. You have to find a path in. And once in there through the witch gates, which are made out of human bones, then you must deal with the horrors that wait you there. And you will. You will run into an undead Lenorm. You will run into a Ravener. You will run into the famed Knights of Ozum. And the Wren Church. Mecca in the north of all things lich and undead. It is an undead factory. Once an abbey devoted to the goddess Pharasma, it is now totally Urgathoa's power domain. Yes. So now you get to deal with many nasties. But at the end of it all, my favorite of the nasties, yes, I have a favorite. You'll run into Ren Church novices. You'll run into corrupt undead. You'll run into a lich werewolf. Yes, Lusamar. And we ain't done yet. No, 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 no. Plenty of liches, oh my. And liches storage chambers. And my favorite in this, let's hear the drum roll. And no, it is not the worm that walks, even though he's fun. It is the Gray Friar, a fallen priest of Pharasma that is twisted. And he is a Huekava of major, massive power. You must rescue a count that is key to the realm and not let him be converted to the next Whispering Tyrant. But then you also go to the town of Atarak, once a major capital in Virlich, and Virholt. And you will deal with your Ravener there. As you can see, read the fine print. What does it say? Ravener. And he's a red dragon Ravener. So, want to see a picture? Yes. But we aren't done yet. We have one more massively nasty thing, and that is the Gallows Spire. One of the most notorious places in all of Golarion, and you get to go into it. You get to run into some Lang creatures. So, again, more Lovecraftian. And if you're lucky, you cut off the influence that the Whispering Tyrant has to the realm. But it isn't over, and this is where I had fun. You get to deal with the 16 levels if you choose later on. And this is where you take it to the Mythic Tier of Tar Bafan and the underneath of the Gallows Spire. And oh Lord, I had over 300 rooms ready to go. So let me tell you, at the end of the day, this is an epic story that can go on and on and on. It takes, I guarantee you, 3/4 of a year, unless you're just one of these power guys that runs it every week or women that runs it every week. And if you do, God bless you, have fun with it, and whatever god it may be. Sorry, I say that. I don't mean to weird anybody out. Whatever one it may be. I just use that as a term of good luck and, you know, have fun with it. So, really enjoy this. Do your research on all things undead. Do things research-wise on the Whispering Way. Get to know the backstory. Read the things. And really let the players unfold it and get as far as they wanted this. Can you introduce other old gods? Of course you can. Can you introduce other people to fight the Whispering Way? Of course you can. Can you put the infamous Chells or Nidalees in here? Of course you can. This is a very adaptable adventure that will take you all through Ustalav. I fell in love with it. It is one of my favorite ones to run. So I would say this to you. Really take the time out to study it. Really make it an epic, memorable experience. There's plenty of levels for roleplay as well as combat. It will make your campaign a fun experience. And so really take the time. The things I love about it is it hits every aspect of horror. It works with a great country that is kind of enshrouded in mystery and undeath and taint. And it really becomes one of those endearing areas that you fall in love with for the gypsy-esque things and for the different politics that go on. Build it up. Have fun with it. Make it come to life. Don't overdo it with your players, but really let them just have fun. There's some other adventures that you can do. As you can see, there is one of the ones that, God, what was it? It was something Mound. There's some other side adventures, and I'm sorry. I should have had that prepared for you today. But take a look into Ustalav and other places, and there's some other things that you can do for side adventures for them while they're in there. But really have fun with it and explore some of the areas. And don't forget, Rule of Fear is a key one to get with it. And then the first one, The Haunting of Harrowstone, you're going to have to get on PDF. Let me know how it goes. When you guys get done with it and you run it, Give me your thoughts back. It was really, in my mind, pretty well written and can be easily adapted in many different ways. And it will make for a fun year-long campaign if you do it right. Okay, thanks, and the next time we will look into the one I'm doing right now. That's one of my favorites, The Reign of Winter. Have fun and have a great week.